Hello, everyone. Sorry I didn't see you on this side of the room. Happy New Year. Good morning. Hi. Okay, thank you so much. All right. Well, let us get into it. This is always good to be home. Always good to be in the Mass 7th. Always good to be in Somerville. So Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you to Mayor Ballantyne, Diane Cohen, Corey Mian, Roger Brown, Gonzalo. How do you say your last name?
Weekball.
Pugbo.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make names matter, so I want to get it right.
That's okay.
I don't usually call you by your last name. Okay.
Gonzalo's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm just delighted to be here with all of you to celebrate this $2.4 million federal investment to redesign and realign public transportation around Clarendon Hill. Thank you to Mayor Ballantyne and leadership staff for participating in today's conversation as we come together again and celebrate this $2.4 million investment in the city of Somerville. Housing and transportation. I sit on and serve on the Financial Services Committee. I have since I was first elected to Congress. And I'm so grateful for that because the most consequential issues for our shared constituents are addressed in this committee, housing being chief amongst them. I'm also the co-founder of the Future of Transportation Caucus, which is a caucus that was founded to disrupt the perpetuation of our inequities that often our federal transportation investments have done. This Future of Transportation Caucus is about our prioritizing federal dollars to center sustainability, accessibility, equity, sustainability. Those are some of the goals of that caucus. And so in every way, this federal investment for Clarendon Hill, in my role both on financial services and as co-founder of the Future of Transportation Caucus, these things all come together. This is at the intersection of everything. These are the sort of federal investments that radically transform communities. Everyone deserves a safe and sustainable neighborhood to live and move through. Transit justice is racial and economic justice, which is why I fought so hard to support projects that address the inequities in our transportation systems and create healthier, safer, and more connected communities in the Massachusetts 7th. I have another bill called the Freedom to Move Act because it's just that simple. We need to make a federal investment in public transit because it really is a public good. And it is a determinant for everything else. So I'm very proud to have worked with all of you to secure this funding. I think community project funding is a demonstration of government really at its best because these projects are community driven and government endorsed. It's not government telling you what you need. It's actively partnering and actively listening to all of you. And then once you have offered up, this is the vision, this is what we need. Again, community driven, but government endorsed and federally invested in. So I'm very grateful for our partnership and that we were able to ultimately secure this critical funding for the Clarendon Hill Housing and Transportation Equity Project, which will make our public transit more reliable, safe, and climate resilient while connecting Somerville residents to jobs, food, and essential services like education and healthcare. That was the one bullet I left out of the Future Transportation Caucus, connectivity. So sustainability, connectivity, equity, and accessibility. All right. So this federal investment will also address the rising housing costs and crisis that, again, so many of our community members and our shared constituents are facing. Renters in my district and across Massachusetts spend half or more of their income on housing, when you're not supposed to spend more than 30% of your income on housing. Housing is at the intersect of everything. We will never actualize economic justice, close the racial wealth gap, or improve public health outcomes without recognizing that housing is a critical determinant of health or meet our climate goals without addressing this housing crisis, this affordable housing crisis. So Congress has to act simultaneously by investing in affordable housing supply as a long-term solution while also enacting policies right now in the immediate to reduce costs in the here and now. Safe, stable, and affordable housing is a fundamental human right, and Clarendon Hill has been an example of how federal, state, and local government can work together to build and preserve affordable housing, and very importantly, invest in what I consider our greatest infrastructure, and that is our people in our communities. Clarendon Hill has been a staple in the Somerville community for years. I'm proud and encouraged that this federal investment will help us to meet our housing goals and empower residents with a sense of belonging, while also protecting their dignity and affirming their place in our community. These resources are a direct investment in our young people, in our families, in our communities. And I take immense pride in our collective efforts on this and firmly believe that these resources represent a crucial step towards achieving fair, just, and equitable housing and transportation. So again, I'm so excited to be with all of you. Yesterday marked the 5-year anniversary of my swearing in Congress. And it just feels so good to mark that 5-year milestone and to start off the new year in community with all of you celebrating this investment. All right, so now I'll turn it over to Mayor Ballantyne.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and welcome to the district. I'm thrilled, and we're all thrilled to have you here. I would like to make just a few introductions and announcements, is that Senator Jalen and Rep. Barber couldn't be here today, but we all know, us who are around the table, that they have been involved actively in locally, but also up at the State House for us on this project. I would say that we started around, some of the conversations I had were in 2016. It's 2024 now. I would also like to introduce that the ward counselor, Judy Pineda-Neufeld, has just come, and one of our youngest members in the community is with us too. So welcome. And I'm hoping we're going to go around the table and have people introduce themselves at some point, or should I introduce them now?
If you have any other opening remarks other than that, why don't you do that, and then we'll get into it before we start the conversation.
Okay, so this particular project, I will say, for me is really important. It's my neighborhood. It's 100 yards away. Our kids go to school together. We see each other shopping, we see each other at the playground, on the bus, everywhere. And I'm fortunate that two of our neighbors are here, Jessica Turner and Maggie Joseph, who have stepped up to take leadership roles from the very beginning.
We appreciate your humility, but we're going to love on you, okay? So
yeah,
just take it in.
Yeah. So my vision for Somerville is an inclusive, equitable city where we can all thrive together, and it's also the vision, I know, of our community members. Affordable housing, transportation, many of the things that I am so proud that you are aligned with us on in terms of violence prevention, electric vehicles, all these infrastructure needs, and the work that I would like to highlight, the work that you've helped bring to Somerville on some very key projects is not only on Clarendon Hill Public Housing, which is for affordable housing, but safe streets, $4 million in safe streets, our streets. Somerville is a community that is a pass-through community. 8 out of 10 cars on the road are passing through to go someplace else. So that provides its challenges, and with the funding also provides opportunity. And then infrastructure, which is a problem all around the world, but 2/3 of our water and sewer infrastructure goes through Poplar Street in the eastern part of the city. So we're just really thrilled to have a partner and work with a partner who aligns with us and helps us move our goals forward so there's progress for all. So I would like to say that we have tremendous partners here. We have the Somerville Housing Authority, Diane Cohen, who's the executive director, our executive director of economic development, planning, and public space, director of mobility, our director of office and housing stability, and our community partners in the affordable housing piece, preservation of affordable housing, and Somerville Community Corporation being represented here. So we're thrilled you're here. We're thrilled that we can move forward on this project. It is a project that it currently has old infrastructure, 216 housing units, that we are tripling the size of that area. That is the long-term project, to go up to 600. 50% of the site then is planned on being affordable, and it is so needed, so much valued, the connection to transportation, because we all know that transportation and access to transportation is an opportunity creator for our residents. It helps them have access, as you said, to education or to schooling, to jobs, and the goal is to help our community thrive. So I'm thrilled to talk more about the project with my partners here. Thank you for being here, and really want to congratulate the team. We've been together in the trenches for 7 or 8 years, and before that too. So it should be a lively discussion.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, and I'd love to just open it up to the table. I just would love to hear, what this investment means, and a little bit more about the impact on real people.
Do you want to talk about that? Sure. So the current state of the buildings is not good at all. It probably would be pretty fair to say that every single resident experiences the same, dilapidated outcome of our units. It's not a place where you would want to live. It's a place where we have to live, so obviously we're still there, but it started great. The project will definitely change that. Some of us who live there don't even know what it's like to not live in a place that is, falling apart, full of mold, dust, bugs. It's not a place for people, and we're really looking forward to this project and not having to have the additional stress of our living conditions, so I'm excited, but it is pretty bad there now. There are people who, and myself included, are actually allergic to their units. My kids are allergic to the units, and I actually have a cockroach allergy, which is kind of funny because we do have quite a presence of pests like that, and it adds to the health problems that we face and our children face. So it's not a place that anybody would choose to live willingly unless they had to. But yeah, I've lived there for going on 14 years now, and there's never been a moment where I said to myself, "Why I like living here," and I think that's a problem. So yeah, maybe Maggie can say what's it like living there. What are the conditions?
Good morning.
We're happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
That's not necessarily so exciting, so I cannot do it for the new just Maggie, thank you for your fight. I'm sorry that you had to fight so hard and for so long, and I thank you for your candor about what it has been like. as someone who grew up in housing development and never had friends over from school because I carried a lot of shame about the fact that we had roaches or the elevator was always broken and the hallways were always dark because lights were broken. It can be very demoralizing to wake up in an environment every day that doesn't affirm your worth. And even though it's not your shame to carry, there can be a lot of shame to carry about that. And so, thank you for being so honest and on behalf of your family and all the families that are living there. And, it's just so important that we never lose sight of the fact that, this is about real people and families and people's health, as well, and self-esteem. So like we said, this investment is about people's dignity. It is all of those other, climate and economic justice and racial justice. But when you just boil it all down, what we're really talking about is dignity. So thank you both.
If I could add something, especially when you just mentioned climate, is these are sick buildings. There were a lot of things that have happened since 2016, and one of those things was creating a new zoning code in the city of Somerville. And I had worked with certainly some of the people around the table, but also building scientists, experts, architects, planners, and saying, how can we make the healthiest buildings possible for Somerville and its future? So we passed as part of our zoning in 2019 a LEED Platinum certifiability requirement for projects over 50,000 square feet. So this project is grandfathered in there. And preservation of affordable housing, Somerville Community Corporation are going to, are constructing that, and that will be a fossil fuel-free construction. So I think of it in a really sick building to be a future builder, a standard.
Yeah.
And some of the data when we started this project to say the residents there are about 92% women-led households, 87% women of color. I can get a little bit emotional that it's usually the women that don't get the best or don't always have to fight a little bit harder. So this project is for our neighborhood, for our kids, because we know when we invest in women and young girls, they improve our communities for everyone. And it's a wonderful day. And hoping the groundbreaking, think maybe end of next year or end of this year.
End of this year.
Yeah, sorry. So for state-of-the-art, cleanest building that's thinking into the future, not just building for 2023.
Love it. Well, this is what I like to hear. Massachusetts 7th, we should be a pace setter for the nation. And so I'd love to hear about, that example, that innovation, that commitment starting in Somerville. So that's fantastic. Any other thoughts about the project or ways in which we can continue to support these families or what you think these...
We're under construction on the first phase, as the mayor mentioned, and we should complete end of this year and move almost all of the families directly into their new homes. And then this funding really helps enable that second phase so that we can complete this project and the additional infrastructure work that needs to happen out there. If you've been out to the site, you can already see the new intersection coming to fruition. Which is beautiful, new bike lanes. I think, Fred, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but we have 3 T-stops and a commuter rail within a mile of this site. We're providing, 300 new housing units, of which 80 of those are new affordable. And we have the replacement housing of 216 deeply affordable. It's just an amazing project, and investments like this help catalyze the rest of the investments, which we're actively securing, so that we can start that second phase at the beginning of next year.
Well, I hope I can be at the groundbreaking.
Yeah,
Hope you
that'd be
are.
great. Yeah, I think
For me particularly, as a community development corporation, I really enjoyed the engagement of everyone in here, the city, the residents, the developers, public transportation, really all came to the table to have a discussion around this project. Naturally, it did create some frustration, I think. Maybe it slowed down the process to some degree, but I think in the end, we're developing a project that incorporates everything that you highlight over here, and it supports the families and the residents. I think the biggest thing from our groundbreaking initially was that the residents were really excited about, each one of the units is going to have laundry service in each one of those units. That was like their primary goal, and what I really enjoyed about the residents, they wouldn't budge on that. It's like, you guys can discuss everything you want. We want to have washer and dryer inside our unit, so I think that was a big win. And but in general, I just really putting the community together and having those discussions and creating a project that supports everything that the city is all about. I think that's what I'm very proud of.
And if I can just, really thank Maggie and Jessica is where they stepped up in the leadership. So where Gonzalo was just talking about the washing machines is Clarendon Hill is a residential, family housing development. They were not formally organized. So back, was it 2016 or the end? It started in 2016. Yeah, they organized, and so they formally established themselves as Clarendon Residents United,
Yep.
and they negotiated with the development team of POA and Somerville Community Corporation. And Jessica can talk about the things that they really push for. Laundry in the units were one, but yeah, but they advocated so much for everybody, and the project, the housing, is going to be so much better because of their voices, and you can't be modest here.
Okay. You're going to be all up in the DNA of everything. All up in the DNA of this.
Letitia Scott, who is one of the co-chairs, she put in a lot of work. She couldn't be here today, but yeah, she did just as much work as I did.
We'll be sure to name her too, going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, and she is, great. She's great. We're like yin and yang. She is my support, the person who brings me back down to earth. So she's great. I love her. As far as, oh my goodness, the process of fighting for everything that we as a collective wanted to make sure we were going to get, grueling, absolutely grueling. But we did it. The thing about us folks that live there is we're all pretty resilient. We're fighters. We're fighters for fairness and equality and equity and justice and everything in between. And I don't know one person who, wouldn't look at something they didn't like and say nothing. So it really was a long process. We got 1-for-1 replacement units guaranteed from the developers, thank God, because the last thing we need is to have the number of units provided to people cut down. We got washers and dryers. We got the right to return without formally being evicted by a judge. We got the temporary relocation rights and stipends for any type of thing you would deal with that you wouldn't normally have to do, like extra cost of travel, extra, laundry. I had laundry in my unit when I was living there, but now I have to pay a laundry machine. So just reimbursement costs for things like that. I know there's so much more, but I can't think of it.
Well, no, you were busy. You were busy, so it's a long. It's a long list.
We did a lot of things,
Yeah.
and we wanted to make sure ultimately that what we were putting together is something that also touched things that have to do with inequality. Like we don't really get to see other people who live in the city unless we leave our homes. We have the block to ourselves right now, and it isn't common for people who live around the area to just casually walk through. That's something that's always bothered me personally because I have different backgrounds that I come from. I've done middle class, I've lived in upper class, and I started in lower class, and here I am. But it's just we needed to be a part of the community, and something that we wanted to ensure with this project is that we were going to be, no matter what, we're going to be included because we're just going to take that section of people, that demographic of people, and put them right on our block. So now they have to look at us. So now they can't, avoid us. They have to. It's all about community, and for us, like we are our own community, but we don't want to not be included with the rest of the community because they see our buildings and are, shunned away from it just by looking at them, let alone, all the other stereotypes that come with living in a project area. So we wanted to make sure that that's not going to happen in the future. So we put an aspect of how the buildings are going to be made, who's making the buildings.
I don't know, just you sure you don't want to be a planner? You've got, got all the tools there. So you've been there 14 years. Maggie, how long have you lived there?
Almost 2 decades.
Okay. Yeah. Even though you still look 25. Yeah, we'll take it. Any other thoughts as we round out?
I had one I just wanted to share because I worked with the tenants before I came to the city. I was an attorney at Greater Boston Legal Services, Cambridge and Somerville Legal Services. And what I wanted to say was that the relocation and benefit agreement was really, I think, groundbreaking. I had helped tenants negotiate many of these, and there were really 2 factors. One, the strength of the tenants, and 2, the flexibility. I'm going to call on Joe Macaluso and Corey. The flexibility of the team that was putting together this project to be willing to move on things that were important to the tenants, like the stipends, the washer dryer, et cetera. And I guess I wanted to highlight this because I think when we have projects like this, people think of the new buildings, and that's like amazing.
Right.
But for me, working with the tenants, I see, well, what happens to them during this 10 years of reconstruction? How are they impacted, and how critical it is that we're paying attention to those issues as we are redeveloping affordable housing. And so, again, just a public shout out both to the tenants who, I can't even remember, we must have met it was just endless, right? And the
In the
tenants,
most beautiful setting.
in the most, oh yeah.
Actually, if I could just add some others, I wrote these down. So I think in 18 months, I hosted as the ward counselor 11 community meeting. Sarah Lewis from our director of planning was there. I think at that point, that was in the 18 months, I think you were maybe like 20 months. I think it was something like 54 residents meeting. That was only starting like in 2017 to mid-2018. And there have been so many more residents meetings, and I really want to highlight is, I put the word team down here. We all were agreeing on the goal. I have to thank the Somerville Housing Authority for really pushing this forward. Joe, thank you. He was always pushing, forward and bringing this up at one point or another. And we just really got to know each other. SEC, I will say, the first community meeting, they door knocked over 1,000 doors to get residents to do this. And I will say, the interesting is, I had some reporters ask me, so do you get a lot of pushback on this? And I said, well, the biggest pushback in Somerville when it comes to a project is traffic, transportation. Where are the cars going to go? How are you going to look at it? But when I asked, my neighborhood, I just walk down the street, 50 yards, and my neighbors are there. And I was door knocking also the area, and I asked them, so I haven't seen you at the community meetings. Like, what is it? And they said, these are our neighbors. They're our friends. Our kids go to school with them. They need the new housing. We all know that. For all the reasons where Jessica said it was mold, it was water seepage, it was, it's in poor condition. So we're not going to hold it back. So the ability, I will say, hands off to Brad and his team of talking about how do we address the transportation, the parking, a lot of discussions, but it was not about no, we don't want the housing. So when we went to the ZBA, we did not have one person speak against the project. Anybody who spoke was for the project.
That is very rare.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. But I will
It's
say
very, very rare.
it was also a lead up of doing the work of having 11 community meetings, and the development team did it. We worked with Duplos and Legos so people could talk about, it's a sloped area, how they envision the site to look at within whatever constraints there were. So it was a team. We became friends. You're a neighbor too.
I couldn't be prouder.
Yeah.
My kid goes to school with our neighbors in the SHA neighborhood, and we're so delighted that the neighborhood is transforming in an inclusive and authentic way, that we're doing this together. The city and power structures doing this for people. We're doing this together. That has always been Somerville DNA and Somerville ethos. I couldn't be prouder as a resident, a public servant, proud of the public schools. One thing I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk about, Congresswoman, is how important the congressional directed funding is and has been, your support, your colleagues working with us at the local level. Because even when we have community consensus about the need to make investments in our affordable housing and in our neighborhoods, our system has denied us the tools to fund it in predictable ways, as you noted at the top, as you noted, Mayor. And so communities like Somerville are forced to be so entrepreneurial, so creative, so interdisciplinary in the way that we put $200 million projects together. And so examples include partnerships with our congressional partners through congressional directed funds, earmarks. They are critical. Without them, this project would not be happening. Folks, it's also important to note the discretionary grants that the Biden administration and others have launched, like Shared Streets and Roads for All, like you said, Mayor, are a critical component of these funding strategies. Our good old-fashioned federal block grants, Tom, administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, have been under threat. Without them, a project like this cannot move forward. And so it's really important to acknowledge all of these federal tools in the box to make transformative projects like this happen. I also want to give a shout out to my ward councilor, Judy Pineda-Neufeld, and her colleagues. Somerville stepped up to the plate and issued tax increment financing borrowing to make sure that this project would move forward. So as we project 5 and 10 and 15 years forward and think about the transferability, the replicability, Somerville leading the way, as you noted, Congresswoman, we need to make sure that all of America knows how hard this stuff is, even when you have community consensus. Even when all the facts are on your side, our system's still broken, and we need more predictable and equitable tools to finance neighborhood transformations like this one. So again, hats off to you and your team, your colleagues, who have helped us put this potpourri of funding together to transform our neighborhood and people's lives.
You need to know that the timing of this award, and I see Representative Pressley delivers, the timing of this delivery couldn't be it couldn't be better, because we're seeing in the economy across Greater Boston, across the country, housing is such a critical issue. The cost of borrowing has gone up in the last 18 months. The cost of construction has skyrocketed. So to have additional resources like this, to be able to keep the train moving on this project is so critical. We're 8 years into this project, and it's going to take probably another 3 or 4 years to totally finish it. And over the course of 10 or 12 years, so much changes. We've gone through a pandemic, and we've seen unprecedented increases in construction costs just in the last few years. And so this is really hitting the sweet spot and allowing us to keep this project to allow us to make this a success that we've all dreamed about and we've all worked together for the last 8 years to make happen. So thank you very much. It's a terrific time.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And
All ready to get the check?
Yes. Like we brought the whole thing.
No, but honestly, any final thoughts before we transition to the more formal press conference aspect here?
Just that the process, although it was extremely stressful, I'm thankful for giving myself the opportunity to participate in this. And also that every resident who also participated in the process gave themselves the opportunity to do it. We aren't really given opportunity much. That we dug in our heels and we did it. And we obviously had some moments where we didn't get along or we disagreed. But like I said, we stuck our heels in, we stood our ground, and at the end of the day, it was much nicer working with developers and the housing authority. They kind of grow on you after a while.
Well, on your worst days and the hardest moments, I can assure you, it was much better than Washington. So,
I'm really proud of everybody that was involved, and look forward to the future of our buildings and our new community. So I'm thankful for any funding that we get.
I just want to add one thing on your delivery. It's and to thank you for the funding that we received through the American Rescue Plan Act, which has benefited not just the city, but organizations like SEC from the nonprofit side that has really helped us support our families. We have a lot more programmatic because of it, but also the infrastructure bill has been really helpful for the city as well. So just want to thank you for that support as well.
well, I appreciate that, and we always want to hear ways in which those dollars are being animated, again,
Yep.
to impact the real lives of people. And what has been great about the funding is that, as you know, federal funding can often be very rigid in its criteria of how it's applied, but those funds were so flexible.
Yep.
And has really allowed us to meet people where they are and to address not only needs in the recovery of the pandemic, but to get at some of the root causes that created the inequities that made underserved or marginalized communities the most vulnerable to COVID, both the health aspects and the economic impacts. So I'm glad to hear the dollars are being
Yeah, I mean, for us, it helped us
utilized.
create a new woman empowerment group, the DIJ training. We've been able to do digital literacy, small business technical assistance, and improve our workforce development to help support families, especially during the pandemic, bridge, the job gap that existed because of that. So for us, it was perfect timing and very helpful and very impactful.
If I could say one other thing, at a time when there's so much division and rancor nationally and people are sort of set in, I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes we didn't get along and we were annoyed. However, that's a polite way, but we were
Not
polite.
really.
Maybe not
No, it is.
at the federal area, but at the local level here is everybody still came to the table. So if the tenants were pushing that they wanted, and Corey would say, well, they're asking for this, this, and this, there was never any disparaging. I can't even say it. The process was long. We had this conversation in our very first meeting when everybody's saying, we need this now. And I said, if you stick it out, we just have to move little step by little step. At the end, we'll get it. But if you take yourself away from the conversation, you say, no, I don't want to talk anymore, then you stop all the opportunity. And no one ever said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And that's it. Or dig their heel. They listened. They they went away, but they came back. And so I am extremely proud that this team and others in the community, but especially the tenants and the developer team, kept on, working at it and didn't say, nope, that's it. That's going to break the bank. There were some times it's like, oops, there's no money, or we're not sure how we're going to fund this, I don't know, around 2019, 2020, and then we just said, well, we'll think of this. But it was always with this idea, what's that little kernel to move forward? So I think that is the bigger story of just keeping the conversation, the give and take, instead of, nope, not going to talk to you anymore. So we're all best friends now.
Well, while we're
No, it is amiable. I
oh,
was
no,
just
I got that.
saying, it is.
No, listen. You all are, teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, so you all have affirmed that, throughout this process, and certainly with what you've shared here today. So, all right. Well, I'm anxious for the big moment here. So I think we will officially close out the roundtable. Again, thank you all for your participation here today. And thank you for this long march, for your resilience, for your vigilance, for your nimbleness, for your partnership. I mean, it's 2024, and you've been engaged in this work, in this fight, in this partnership since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great day. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. All right, well, you all have been with us all morning, so, we're going to be a little repetitive here, but I think that this good news warrants repetition, so I think that's okay. Good morning once again, and Happy New Year. To recap, we are here to celebrate and highlight the $2.4 million federal investment to redesign and realign public transportation around Clarendon Hill. I thank everyone who has been a part of this effort in this long sojourn since 2016. We are now in the early days of 2024, and so it has indeed been a long march, lots of long nights, but I think this is demonstration and affirmation of the best kind of partnerships, something that I strive to do in my role, and that is to govern cooperatively. And I think the residents of Clarendon Hill and Jessica and Maggie and Letitia prove that you do not have to have a comma and a title after your name to lead. And I thank the residents of Clarendon Hill for leading, for being visionary leaders, for being vigilant leaders, for being fighters, because everyone deserves to have a home where your dignity is centered and where you are safe and thriving. I thank the mayor for her long-time friendship and for her leadership example, and her entire team for all that you've done to make today possible. Again, this is the best kind of partnership because it is community-driven, government-endorsed, and federally invested. This project will support the community-informed transformation of the Clarendon Hill Housing Community by increasing safe and affordable housing, promoting accessibility to services and mobility, particularly for residents with disabilities and those using mobility assistance devices, and support the development of green and open community space for residents of an ethnically, linguistically, and economically diverse neighborhood. This investment addresses both housing and transportation needs. As I mentioned earlier, certainly these are at the intersection of everything in determining the health of our residents and their life trajectories, both in terms of social and economic mobility. It is very heartening to me that we've been able to advance these and deliver these federal funds, in that I do serve on the Financial Services Committee and also am a co-founder of the Future of Transportation Caucus. And these dollars are animating the goals of that caucus in particular. So I'm looking forward to the radical transformation that is underway here. Thank you, everyone, for contributing to today's success, for your counsel and partnership throughout this process, and I look forward to our future collaboration. I'll invite the mayor up now for a few words. Is that okay? Well, you have to come here to get the check.
Yes.
So you decide. Okay.
I want to say thank you to the Congresswoman. Thank you to the team. I mean, this is so needed for all the reasons that we spoke of today. The need for affordable housing because of our housing crisis. The need to make sure that transportation is an integral part of our planning for affordable housing. We can't be more thrilled to our partners, the Somerville Housing Authority, our development partners on the affordable housing side. Thank you. Our tenants, my neighbors, I love you. My staff, Ellen, you are on different sides of this when we started as legal support and now within working for the city. And Sarah on the planning side, thank you so much to everybody. And yeah, I'll take the check.
Okay. You want to thank Senator Trainer?
Oh, thank you. I love the partnership here. And also to mention sincerely that Senator Pat Jalen and Representative Christine Barber worked really hard to help us move this project forward. They were there from the very beginning when we were talking with the tenants. We were all on the same page. So this could not have happened without our partnership with our state delegation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say this. You all have done everything right. I wanted to do everything right, but I did err in one way. I don't know what you call this. It's not a Freudian slip, but this check reflects what my heart's desire was. And so it says 2.5, but it is actually 2.4. Okay. So I mean, I don't know if you want to take a Sharpie and cross it out, but we're going to keep fighting
Yes.
until we get where we need to go. But let's all come out here, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. I'm not used to someone being so quiet. Let's get a little energy like All right, thank you, everyone.
This is the new year.
Yeah.
We're so excited.
So Jessica's holding me accountable for that extra.
We'll be coming over and remind you.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the best gift ever.
Okay, are there any questions? You guys all set? Okay. Oh, okay. Hi.
I was just wondering if there are any other projects you're working on that will directly impact Somerville or Cambridge?
Sure. So this is now our second. These used to be called earmarks. Now they're community project funding, and I think in total we've delivered maybe $26 million in community project funding investments throughout the Massachusetts 7th Congressional District, ranging from transit justice to climate justice, workforce development, and the like. In Cambridge in particular, we have already delivered a $1 million investment for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and also a $958,000 federal investment for separated bike lanes in Cambridge. I also co-chair the Congressional Bike Caucus. Now, my knees don't let me actually bike. But that being said, I'm very passionate about multimodal infrastructure. And so in my role as co-chair of the Congressional Bike Caucus and also as a co-founder of the Future Transportation Caucus, I continue to fight for those multimodal infrastructure investments. And then finally, on the climate front in Cambridge, a $2.5 million investment for climate resilience and community space. That was connected to the Poplar Street project, which I assume you're familiar with, the Poplar Street pump station. Okay, so that's Cambridge. All right, thank you.